Friends, today we're going to explain the film Predator, Badlands, released in 2025. Music. This film is full of action, thrill, and suspense. The story is about an alien who must endure many dangerous challenges to prove his power. But on this journey, his biggest enemy becomes none other than his own father. Now the question is, will this alien be able to prove himself? Or will he face a dangerous situation that could cost him his life? To find out the answer, be sure to watch the video until the end. So at the beginning of the movie, we see a planet called Njohrr. But this is no ordinary planet. The aliens living here are called predators. This species had a very strict rule. The weak have no right to live here. There is no place for the weak on this planet, even if it is the king's son. If a predator fails to prove his worth, he is killed by his own tribe. The main character of this movie, Njohrr, was a weak predator. Njohrr was the son of his tribe's king, Njohrr. However, because of his weakness, Njohrr refused to accept him as his own. Embarrassed and enraged, the king ordered his other son, Queen, to kill Njohrr. After this, Quai found Njohrr and attacked him. Njohrr countered his brother's attack with full force, but Quai was much more powerful. He became invisible and began attacking Njohrr. However, Njohrr did not possess the power to become invisible, a power only granted to powerful predators. After a prolonged battle, Njohrr ultimately lost to Quai. However, Quai did not kill him. In fact, Quai did not want to kill his brother Njohrr. He was preparing him so that Njohrr could prove his worth to his father. When Quai felt that Njohrr was ready, he brought him to his spaceship, which contained many dangerous weapons. Quai told Njohrr that his training was complete. Now he must go to the planet Sina and slit the head of a monster named Kalisk. Kalisk is no ordinary monster. Even the strongest predator has ever been able to kill him. All predators tremble at the mere mention of his name. Even our father, the king of the tribe, Njohrr, fears Kalisk. Killing that monster was beyond his capacity. Some say that Kalisk is the most powerful creature in the universe. If you return with Kalisk's head, the entire tribe will bow before you, and father will pardon your punishment. Njohrr resolves to prove himself by bringing back the monster's head. While they're still talking, their father, Njohrr, arrives. Seeing Njohrr alive, Njohrr becomes enraged at Quai. Having sent him there to kill him, Quai tells his father that they should give Njohrr one last chance. After all, he's your son. But Njohrr clearly states that he doesn't consider this weak predator his own. According to him, Njohrr only deserved to die. With that, Njohrr uses his power to capture Njohrr and orders Quai to slit his throat. Obeying his father, Quai moves forward, but doesn't kill Njohrr. Instead, he frees him, pushes him into the spaceship, and locks the ship with the controls in his hand. Njohrr becomes enraged by Quai's actions and, in a fit of rage, begins to brutally beat him. In the process, one of Quai's hands is severed. Seeing this, Njohrr felt deeply hurt because he was the reason for all this. Quai was now faced with two options. Either pick up his sword and fight his father, or launch the ship using the controls on his severed hand. But Quai, instead of saving himself, chooses to save Njohrr. Meanwhile, Njohrr thrusts his sword through Quai. Despite this, Quai remains undeterred and finally presses the button, launching the ship. Njohrr then grabs Quai and slits his throat, killing him instantly. After a long journey, Njohrr finally reaches planet Sina. But before landing on the planet, his spaceship is severely damaged. To avoid a crash landing, Njohrr ejects his seat and somehow manages to land on the planet. While Njohrr was preparing his weapons to hunt the cultists, a carnivorous tree from behind snatched his weapons with its vines and tried to pin him down and kill him. Luckily, Njohrr had his sword with him, and he began cutting the vines. But the number of vines was so large that it became impossible for him to fight them all at once. Eventually, Dek managed to escape by cutting through the vines and escaped their grasp. During this fight, Dek also sustained severe injuries, so he went to the riverbank to heal his wounds. Meanwhile, he spots some insects. As he catches them, they explode. Seeing this, Dek realizes that this is no ordinary planet. Even the smallest creatures here are extremely dangerous. Ignoring them, Dek continues on. Along the way, he notices some strange thorny plants that seem to bloom at the slightest movement. As Dek avoids them, he suddenly spots a girl trapped in a tree, pleading for help. But Dek pays no attention and continues on. Suddenly, a dragon appears from the sky and throws a stone at the thorny plants. The impact of the stone causes a plant to burst, sending its sharp thorns flying. The girl tells Dek that these are no ordinary thorns, but poisonous thorns that will render you unconscious if they touch you. This was actually the dragon's trick. Music. He was deliberately throwing stones at the plants so that their thorns would prick Dek and render him unconscious. This is how the dragon attacks its prey, by rendering them unconscious. Dek was still trying to understand this when another dragon appeared from the sky and threw several stones at the plants, causing them to burst, and one of the poisonous thorns pierced Dek. Dek slowly began to lose consciousness. The girl said, "I can save you, but I need a weapon to free myself from here." Just before he fainted, Dek took out one of his weapons and threw it at him. Seeing Dek lying unconscious, the dragon began to move towards him. But before he could do anything, the girl arrived and killed the dragon. After a while, when Dek regained consciousness, he was shocked to see the girl standing in front of him, half of her body broken. The girl reveals her name is Thea, and she's not human but an android or robot, created by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. Thea further explains that the company sent her and her sister Tessa, along with a robot team, to this planet for research. They've been conducting research on this planet for the past 2 years. When Dek asks, Thea explains that her condition is caused by Kalisk. A few days ago, she and her team encountered Kalisk, in which half of her body was severed, and her sister Tessa was also severely damaged. Thea further explains that before she could repair herself, the dragon mistook her for a human and brought her here. When it couldn't eat her metal body, it threw her into the bushes, leaving her trapped. Thea tells him, "I know you're here to hunt Kalisk. Many predators have been here before you, but everyone was horribly killed by Kalisk." Thea says that if Dek wanted, she could take him to Kalisk. But in return, he would have to take me to my camp, because that's where the other half of her body was, which she wanted to rejoin. Dek initially refuses, but he was completely unfamiliar with this planet, so he reluctantly has to seek Thea's help. After this, Dek picks up Thea and moves forward. Thea guides him, and he moves forward. But carrying Thea wasn't easy, so Dek ties her to his back with vines. As they move forward, Thea tells him many things about this planet and Kalisk. The story then takes a different turn, where we see Tessa, Thea's sister, another android created by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. Tessa, badly damaged, returns to her base to repair herself. This base was built on this planet. Meanwhile, the company learns that TSA has failed its mission. Therefore, the company warns her that if she fails again, she will be deactivated. Music. Tessa then inquires about Theo. The AI system tells her that Theo is currently with a predator and is taking him somewhere. Tessa, unaware that Thea had gone with him of her own free will, believes Dek poses a significant threat to them. Meanwhile, it's already evening while they're traveling, so Dek and Thea stop there to spend the night. Meanwhile, Thea begins to tell Dek about herself. She explains that she and her team arrived on this planet 2 years ago, music, and have been conducting research there ever since. Thea also explains that the company has implanted emotions in her and her sister so that they can understand things better. But Dek falls asleep while listening to Thea. As soon as morning comes, they both start their journey again and reach an open grassland. Then Thea explains that this is not ordinary grass but thorny grass. Its edge was so sharp that no one could cross it. Meanwhile, Dek sees that a big creature resembling an elephant was comfortably eating this grass. Thea explains that the name of this creature is Bison, who could chew anyone alive if he got angry. While they were chatting, a monkey suddenly appeared, but Thea wasn't aware of the monkey. She, too, had seen one for the first time in 2 years. Hearing the monkey's voice, Bison quickly noticed them and began to move toward them. Seeing him approach, Dek began to run away, but Bison was unwilling to give up his pursuit. Finally, enraged, Dek swung his sword at him, slicing Bison in two with a single blow. They hadn't fully recovered from this predicament when another danger stalked them. A giant spider-like creature suddenly grabbed them both and put them in its mouth. Just as it was about to eat them, the monkey jumped into its mouth. The monkey's skin was so strong, that the creature's teeth broke. After losing its teeth, the creature abandons Dek and Thea and goes straight after the monkey who had saved their lives. So Dek decides to help him. Climbing a tree, he leaps on the creature and stabs it with his sword, killing it. This narrowly escapes the monkey's death. The story then shifts to Tessa, who is traveling with her synthetic robot team. On the way, she finds Dek's ejected seat, which helped Dek land on this planet. Tessa is still examining the seat when the same carnivorous tree attacks her from behind. However, Tessa and her companions destroy the trees with their weapons. This makes it clear that Tessa's behavior was extremely aggressive. Moving forward, Tessa also finds Dek's crashed spaceship. When she goes inside, she discovers several dangerous weapons belonging to the Predator Hushers. Among these weapons was a bomb that, upon exploding, froze objects like ice. We then see a night scene where Dek and Thea stopped at a spot and were cooking bison meat, where the monkey had come along with them. Dek then offers the monkey some bison meat to eat, but the monkey spits it back at him. This angers Dek. Thea then explains that perhaps this is his way of making friends. Hearing this, Dek becomes a little emotional and says, "I don't want anyone to be my friend. My friend was my brother, who was brutally murdered by our own father." Dek further declares that he will not let Jaya sacrifice his brother's life. He will prove himself and avenge his brother's death. While sleeping at night, the monkey begins to imitate Dek exactly. Seeing this, Thea laughs and names the monkey Bud. The monkey has now become a good friend. In the morning, Dek leaves the monkey there and continues on with Thea. After a long walk, they finally reach Thea's camp. This was the same place where Kalisk had attacked Thea. Finding there, they find Thea's broken legs. Thea takes them to her lab and activates them, slowly reattaching them to her body. After this, Thea reveals a truth to Dek. She says, "I lied to you. They came here not for research, but to capture Kalisk. For the past 2 years, they've been trying to capture Kalisk. But he never came under our control. This condition of theirs was also a result of trying to capture Kalisk." Thea continues, "Deke should leave now because the signal about his presence here has reached Tessa. If she finds out you're here, she'll capture you too." But Deke bluntly states that he won't leave without killing Kalisk. Thea tells him to put the thought of killing Kalisk out of his mind if he wants to survive. Because killing Kalisk was impossible. According to her, Dek can never kill Kalisk. Hearing this, Dek becomes extremely angry. He tells Thea, "You took advantage of me. You wanted to steal my prey by deceiving me." Dek clearly states that no matter what, he will kill Kalisk. With that, Dek leaves the lab. To draw Kalisk back, Dek detonates the capsule. Hearing the loud explosion, Kalisk arrives and roars, attacking Dek. Dek doesn't back down and fights back with all his might. At one point, He cuts off Kalisk's tail with his sword. But Dek is surprised when his severed tail rejoins itself, and Kakist attacks him again. In their fight, Thea is unable to reattach her legs, after which Dek cleverly traps Kalisk's tail in a chamber of music and seizes the opportunity to slit his throat. Dek thinks Kalisk is dead, but the next moment, his severed head reattaches. Dek is stunned by this. Kalisk was about to grab Dek and eat him when he suddenly realizes he's dead. Suddenly, he stops. He smells a strange odor coming from Dek's body and doesn't kill him. Why did Kalisk do this? We'll learn more about this later. Just then, Tessa arrives. She throws the same special bomb she found on Dek's spaceship towards them. As the bomb explodes, both Kalisk and Dek freeze. Tessa then begins taking them to her base. Now they have captured Kalisk, but Dek is also hooked up to machines. Tessa wanted to experiment on Dek as well. Then, Tessa goes to Thea. Thea had shut down during the battle, so Tessa takes her data and reactivates her. Once she regains consciousness, Tessa tells her that they have captured Kalisk. In fact, her company wanted to conduct research on Kalisk to learn how he heals himself. If this secret is discovered, the future of humanity could be completely changed. Tessa then begins to torture Dek by shocking him. Seeing this, Thea stops her from doing so. But when Tessa refuses, Thea herself shuts down the machine. Thea says that Dek saved her life when she was in trouble. Dek is not like other predators. He is a good predator. Thea further says that their mission was not to capture Dek, but to capture Kalisk. Now that he has been captured, release Dek. Hearing this, Tessa becomes extremely angry. She tells Thea that they have taken the data they needed from her. They no longer need her. Tessa then summons her synthetic robots and orders them to torture Dek and extract all the information about his weapons from him, and then deactivate Thea forever. After Tessa leaves, a synthetic robot, acting on her orders, begins questioning Dek about the weapons stored there. Meanwhile, the robot picks up a bomb whose remote was kept nearby, held by Thea. Seeing this, Dek signals Thea to press the button. As soon as Thea presses the button, the synthetic robot explodes along with the bomb. Before the other synthetic robots can reach, Thea frees Dek and opens the ship's door, escaping. Dek falls straight into the waterfall, while Tessa watches from above. Dek then emerges from the water and manages to reach his spaceship. After much effort, he repairs the ship and treats his wounds. Dek now begins to think about saving Thea. However, Tessa had taken all his weapons with her. So Dek begins to create new weapons from materials found on the planet. Music. He first removes the thorny grass. Then he extracts the teeth of an elephant-like creature he had hunted. Music. He then collects dangerous creatures living near the water, as well as thorny plants and insects that explode. Dek then heads to the lab where Thea's footprints were. Then he spots a bird sitting dejectedly near Kalisk's footprints. Dek realizes that the person they thought was a monkey was actually Kalisk's child. The child was with Dek the previous night. That's why his scent had stuck to Dek, and that's why Kalisk didn't kill Dek, despite having the chance. Now, just as the child spat on Dek to make a friend, Dek spits on him and makes him his friend. Dek then goes to the lab, and as soon as he activates Thea's legs, they automatically begin moving towards Thea's location. Dek and Bud pursue the legs, where they arrive at their base. Upon entering the base, Dek attacks the synthetic robots. Using his own weapons, he destroys them one by one, but also assists Dek in this battle. This is where we learn that Bud, like his mother, is incredibly powerful. Now, Thea's legs reach her, but then two synthetic robots spot them. However, Thea's legs are within her control. She controls them, knocking them down. Thea finally reconnects her legs to her body, and at that moment, Dek arrives. When Thea learns that Dek has come to rescue her, she feels deeply moved. Dek then tells her that they must now rescue Kalisk. Thea is surprised and asks if he still wants to kill Kalisk. Dek says that he no longer wants to kill Kalisk. He reveals the truth to Thea. The person they thought was a monkey was actually Kalisk's child. Dek says that for the child's sake, they must take Kalisk out alive. Hearing this, Thea agrees. Meanwhile, outside, Tessa is preparing to take Kalisk to Earth. But at that moment, Dek deliberately sets off an emergency alarm. The alarm triggers the synthetic robots standing outside. They are alerted and begin moving rapidly. Tessa immediately realizes this must be Dek's ploy, so she goes to arrange something. Moving forward, the synthetic robots spot Dek sitting in a spot. Seeing him, they move toward him. But little did they know that Dek had already laid a trap for them. Suddenly, the insects hidden underground explode one after another. With the powerful explosions, the synthetic robots are destroyed one by one. Just then, Tessa arrives in a massive robot suit and attacks Dek directly. The robot suit was quite advanced, while Dek had no weapons at the time, making him vulnerable to the robot. Amidst the chaos, Tia seizes an opportunity and tries to free the cultist. But just then, a synthetic robot arrives. Seeing it, Tia introduces herself as Tessa and begins talking to it. Initially, the robot is deceived. But as soon as he catches sight of Bud standing behind him, he becomes suspicious. Before he can understand anything, Thea kills him and frees Kalisk. Meanwhile, Tessa is about to kill Dek. But at that very moment, Kalisk arrives and directly attacks Tessa's robot suit. In a series of fierce battles, completely destroys the robot and finally swallows my Tessa alive. Kalisk then meets his child. He is overjoyed to see his child. He accepts Dek as a friend, not an enemy. But then Kalisk begins to feel something strange inside him. In reality, Tessa was still alive inside Kalisk's stomach, and at that very moment, she detonates the bomb from within, killing Kalisk instantly with a powerful explosion. After the explosion, Tessa emerges from Kalisk's body and lunges at Thea. But then, Dek emerges from behind, killing Tessa in one blow and snatching his weapon from her. An enraged Dek decapitates Tessa. Thea then declares, "Now, go, your mission is complete." But Dek declares, "My final mission is yet to come." Dek then returns to his planet and places Tessac's severed head in front of his father, Njohrr, replacing Kalisk's with Tessac's, proving that he is no weak predator. But Njohrr believes Dek is fooling him by showing him the head of a mere creature. Enraged, Njohrr orders his soldiers to kill Dek. However, Dek destroys all the soldiers in one blow. Now, to avenge his brother's death, Dek directly attacks his father. Njohrr confronts him, and a fierce battle ensues. In the ensuing battle, Dek severely injures Njohrr. Seeing himself weakened, Njohrr becomes invisible and begins attacking Dek from hiding. Due to his invisibility, Njohrr begins to overpower Dek. Dek uses his intelligence and, using his spaceship, blows the surrounding soil into the air. As the soil spreads, Dek clearly sees his father. Seizing the opportunity, Dek attacks him and cuts off Njohrr's hand, just as Njohrr had cut off his brother's hand. Afterward, Dek captures Njohrr, just as he was created. Faced with death, Njohrr apologizes and offers to let him join his clan. But Dek says, "I no longer need your clan. I have my own clan." Hearing this, Bud appears from behind and eats Njohrr's head. We see that Bud has now grown much larger and stronger. Then Thea arrives. Dek then takes Njohrr's invisibility power from his severed hand. This means that Dek could now become invisible at will. But then a spaceship appears. Seeing it, Deck becomes a little nervous. When Thea asks, Deck says, "This is my mother's spaceship." The question now arises, why has Deck's mother come here? And is Deck about to face a new problem? We will find answers to all these questions in the next part. When will the next part come? That's not clear yet. But if you want me to explain it on the channel as soon as the next part arrives, please let me know in the comments. And if you like the video, please like it and create hype for it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We'll see you with another video. Until then, thanks for watching.